मांजरींना पण रेबीज होतो का? म्हणजे कुत्र्यांना होतो मला माहिती आहे.
Technically, rabies is a disease of all warm-blooded animals. These are not areas that you suddenly touch an unknown dog over. These are the sites where people get bitten most. If you try to touch a dog you've known also for a long time,
ते धरतात पण ते चावत नाही. सो त्याचे निबल केल्यासारखं करतात. सो त्याचं काय इंटरप्रिटेशन असते?
but the dog has tried to ward you off by holding your hand and not wanting you to do something extra.
ओके. मॅन्युएला पेट पॉडच्या आजच्या भागामध्ये सगळ्यांचं स्वागत आहे. आज आपण डिस्कस करणार आहोत परसिव्ड बॅड बिहेवियर. मी परसिव्ड ह्याच्यासाठी म्हटलं की आपल्याला ते बॅड बिहेवियर वाटतं पण प्राण्याच्या दृष्टिकोनातनं कदाचित ते नसेल,
नॉर्मल बिहेवियर असू शकतं.
सो कुत्रा आणि मांजर ह्याचं आपण लास्ट टाइम डिस्कस केलं की द गुड बिहेवियर, द थिंग्स दॅट वी लाईक अबाउट दीज टू. पण काही ऑब्व्हियस गोष्टी आहेत ज्या प्राण्यांबद्दल आपल्याला आवडत नाहीत आणि त्याच्यातली सर्वात महत्वाची आहे बायटिंग. मांजरीने नखं मारणं किंवा कुत्र्याने नखं मारणं, चावणं हे एनिवेज इट्स रिस्की आणि आपल्याला आवडत नाही. तर आधी त्याच्याबद्दल सांगा, दॅट व्हाय डज दिस हॅपन आणि हाऊ डू वी काय म्हणूया कंट्रोल इट ऑर स्टे अवे फ्रॉम इट.
आपण जसं मागे बोललो तसं प्रत्येक जनावर देर इज नो वन साईज फिट्स ऑल विथ ॲनिमल्स. ठीक आहे. प्रत्येक जनावरामध्ये त्याचे स्वतःचे काही बिहेवियरल ट्रेट्स असतात. ओके. जनरली बायटिंग और स्क्रॅचिंग ओके will happen when you are intruding onto the animal's personal space. आपण मागे म्हटलं तसं all of them have a spatial requirement. When you are approaching, you are going to enter within their spatial requirement. You need to first gauge if the animal is going to be friendly towards you or not. And when the animal is giving you enough signs that it is not really very comfortable in your presence, and then if you still intrude onto its personal space, then it is going to it will invite a sharp reaction. If it is a dog, usually it will start with a snarl. Okay, it's not necessarily true that the dog will immediately jump at you and start biting you. It will warn you off with a snarl first. Okay, if you still encroach further, intrude further, then it will be a growl, a loud growl. And after that, now that is when we had spoken about the different types of puppies and what kind of puppies to select. So like I said, a dominant dog or an aggressive dog will always let you know that it is not comfortable in your presence and that you can only approach it till this extent and no further. Okay, this far and no further, thus far and no further. If you do eventually end up intruding onto a space when it is not comfortable around you, it is giving you all the signs.
Then one red flag, two red flags,
three red flags. And it's usually it's only when this happens is when the animal will eventually bite. Right? Dogs will display aggression usually through a bite. Different types of dogs bite differently. Okay, depending on the nature for which they've been bred, different types of dogs will bite differently. Their bite force is different. You don't want to get bitten by a really big dog like a Rottweiler. It can actually crunch your bones through. Or even for that matter, people who keep Cane Corsos, these are not really the kind of dogs that you can keep as pets. Nonetheless, if you do end up keeping one as a pet, you have to always remember it's a strong dog and that you have to be extremely careful with its training. Okay, and being the alpha in the pack when you have a dog like that. You can never allow the dog to take that position when it is going to be above you in hierarchy. So dogs, when they're growing up in your family, they will also try to gauge where they fit into your pack. Into the pack.
म्हणजे असं होतं ना की फक्त ह्या एका माणसाला कुत्रा चावत नाही पण बाकी सगळ्यांना चावतो.
बरोबर.
सो त्यांनी त्या माणसाला स्वतःच्या वरती पोझिशन केलं आणि बाकीच्यांना पॅक मध्ये खाली.
देन तो जनरली कुत्रा आणि मांजर जाऊन उगाच कोणाला चावत नाही. मांजरी जनरली चावत नाहीत. ओके, मांजरी जनरली they will usually slash at you with their paw. with their claws out.
आणि इंटरेस्टिंगली त्यांची नखं तेव्हाच बाहेर येतात.
त्यांची नखं बाहेर येतात. जनरली मांजरांची नखं they are sheathed inside. So the neck of a manjar or a dog what you perceive, what you can see, visualize as a nuck, is actually the modified third digit. Okay?
Oh.
It's a modified third phalanx of the digit, rather.
Acha.
These are phalanges, right?
Yeah.
So the third phalanx is modified into a claw.
Oh.
And the claw is attached to the second phalanx by a very strong tendon,
Acha.
which allows the cat to either unsheath or sheath its claw.
Acha.
So generally, if it is a known person,
Huh.
cats will not slash at you with their claws out unless they feel sufficiently threatened.
Understood.
And cats generally, only when they fully commit to it is when they will bite.
Acha.
When they are going to go for the kill, sort of, that is the only time they use it.
Manjar Chawli is very
मांजर चावणं
rare.
is usually very very rare. Okay, चावले तर मात्र जोरात चावतात. Okay, but usually they will slash at you with their hands, with their nails, claws. That is sufficiently dangerous.
Right.
It can ward you off. It can cause a lot of discomfort, pain, and infection also. You know, the funny thing is when people talk about, you know, I got scratched by a cat, do I need to take an anti-rabies shot?
I was going to ask you,
Yes.
what is the equivalent of an anti-rabies? Is it an anti-tetanus?
No, I mean, there is no comparison between the two. Okay.
I know it's a lame question, but
anti-tetanus is basically, tetanus is anti-tetanus would be for against tetanus. So tetanus is it's not an infection per se. Tetanus is caused by a bacteria known as Clostridium tetani, which is an obligate anaerobe, meaning to say it will survive not in the presence of oxygen. So usually when you have a deep penetrating wound, like a stab wound or a bite wound or a deep claw wound, wherein you expect the oxygen to be low there, is when these kind of bacteria, they grow. And when these bacteria grow, the bacteria itself is not growing and causing an infection. It is releasing toxins, and the toxins are going to cause tetanus. So tetanus basically is a condition wherein the muscles are in a state of constant contraction, and that is caused by the toxin that is produced by the Clostridium organism. Okay, tetanus can happen independently of that also. Like you can create tetany inside a muscle by stimulating it continuously till it keeps on contracting continuously. That is what tetanus means. Rabies is a completely different thing.
but whenever I've had a dog bite, you've asked me की vaccinated कुत्रा आहे ना, आपला कुत्रा आहे ना, मग tetanus घ्या, anti-tetanus घ्या, rabies घेऊ नका.
That is
म्हणून मी ते दोन connect करून तुम्हाला प्रश्न
so the
विचारला.
reason being very simple, that all the dogs that are thoroughly vaccinated, okay, and if they have been routinely vaccinated, one single vaccination doesn't necessarily ensure that the dog has sufficiently high titers against rabies. So that is why, because the virus is partial to the nervous system, okay, that's why when you get bitten by an unknown dog, or if you get bitten by a dog with an incomplete vaccination profile, and since our country is endemic for rabies, meaning to say that we have rabies cases in our country, okay, every once in a while we do come across dogs that are rabid. So a bite from any animal that is unvaccinated or which is improperly or inadequately vaccinated, it is always better to take a rabies shot. That being said, dogs are not considered to be neither cats, they are not considered to be natural reservoirs of the virus. Unlike the wild fauna, they are not considered to be naturally having the virus in their systems. So the only way your dog or your cat could contract rabies, okay, technically, were if it were exposed to a rabid animal. The saliva is the infectious material. So if it were exposed to the saliva of a rabid dog or a cat, is when it would end up getting rabies. Otherwise, if your dog is at home, there is no exposure, it has been routinely vaccinated, then there is very little likelihood of you having rabies, okay, because of your own dog bite. That being said, as veterinarians, it is not within our jurisdiction to be giving you advice on matters related to your health. For that, you have to talk to your doctor, your own doctor, and they are the best people to guide you. If they feel you are sufficiently exposed and want to give you an anti-rabies shot, just go ahead and take it.
Right.
The fallacy where I was coming to is when people come to us sometimes with this thing that, you know, people know that it's the bite. Sometimes they confuse that with the envenomation caused by a snake bite. The snake's venom. Okay, snakes are also not poisonous. So they say it's a poisonous snake. It's not a poisonous snake per se. Poisonous is when you eat something and you know it's poisonous, right? when a snake bites, not all bites, but if it is a snake that has injected venom, so a snake bite is also called as a case of envenomation. The snake has injected its venom, which can be toxic to you. Okay, the snake itself is not. Its venom could be.
Understood.
Yeah. So, but venom is naturally produced by the glands, the venom glands inside the snake. That also helps the snake to digest its prey partially, either paralyze it or partially digest it before consuming it. Okay, these are animals that don't have limbs, and they are sometimes taking on prey which are much bigger than them, faster than them. So the venom helps in two ways. There is a venom that will immediately paralyze the animal.
It's like anesthesia dila.
Yeah, knockout dose.
A knockout, yeah.
Or it can cause you to possibly start partially digesting the prey also, depending upon the nature of the snake. And if it is a viperine snake, then it is going to have the kind of toxins that even the digesting tissues before the snake has consumed its prey. Unlike dogs and cats don't carry the rabies virus in their saliva continuously. It's only when they get exposed to a rabid animal is when they will have the virus in their saliva. Now coming back to the question of I got scratched by the cat or a dog, especially cat, do I need to take an anti-rabies shot? Cats lick themselves and groom themselves all the time. So although the saliva is the infectious material, when the cat is grooming itself, licking itself, there's enough time for the saliva to be deposited in its nails. So that is potentially dangerous. So that's still an exposure. If the animal is not vaccinated, you take an anti-rabies shot and also an anti-tetanus if it is reasonably deep. Yeah.
मांजरींना पण रेबीज होतो का? म्हणजे कुत्र्यांना होतो मला माहिती आहे.
So technically rabies is a disease of all warm-blooded animals. Okay. तो मांजरींनाही रेबीज होतो. गाई म्हशींना सुद्धा रेबीज होतो.
अच्छा.
Yeah.
आणि सलायवा मधनं
आणि तो सलायवातून इन्फेक्शियस असतं. Okay. So there have been bats can also cause rabies, though we don't have bat rabies cases in India. We don't have vampire bats that is usually seen in South America, where these are bats which suck blood. So and in the bat, what happens is the virus can grow inside the fat cells of the bat. Okay, so the bat with rabies can survive for a much longer period of time as compared to a rabid animal that is a dog or a cat.
Oh my God.
Now cats also get what is known as furious rabies. The rabies types astat. Okay, there is a dumb rabies and there is a furious rabies. Eventually all rabies ends with the dog getting paralyzed. So a more potent strain of the virus may cause what is known as dumb rabies, which will have escalated through the furious rabies case. The other one is the furious rabies case, wherein you see classical signs of aggression, excitement, hyper excitement, and eventually getting into paralysis. But in cats, it is usually furious rabies, which is the most common sign of rabies in cats.
Sometimes the dog doesn't bite, तो फक्त snap करतो.
Okay.
तर त्याचं काय?
Snapping is more commonly seen in dogs that are nervous, fractious. We had spoken about dogs that are not very confident. So when you approach an underconfident dog, suddenly the dog will snap at you. Because it knows nothing. It's so scared that it would like to ward you off. It's not an aggressive dog. It's not really growling menacingly. It's not snarling at you. It just thinks that you should be wise enough not to enter its space. And when you still do that, then the dog will snap at you.
पण मी ग्रूमिंग करताना बघितलंय की when you're grooming a dog's hand or something, तर ते पटकन स्नॅप करताना चावायची तेवढा इंटरेस्ट नसतो. पण तुम्ही म्हणता की ते फिअर
इंड्युस्ड होऊ शकतं. त्याच्या पलीकडे तुम्ही जेव्हा ग्रूमिंगचं म्हणता, फॉर एक्झाम्पल, ना देर आर सर्टन पार्ट्स ऑफ अ डॉग्स बॉडी that are off limits to people generally. Right?
Which is like the paw often.
The paws, the ears, the top of the head, these are not, and the rump, the lower back. These are not areas that you suddenly touch an unknown dog over. These are the sites where people get bitten most. If you try to touch a dog you've known also for a long time, by touching its back, the rump area, it will snap. It might snap at you. Because these are considered by the dogs to be signs of you trying to dominate the dog. Right? And since they are creatures of hierarchy, strict hierarchy, they don't really appreciate that. So an unknown dog never do that. Touching the legs, the feet of the dog, it's not considered to be very auspicious or holy amongst dog society. So don't do that with an unknown dog. It will snap at you. Okay?
आणि वन व्हेरी क्यूट थिंग इज, म्हणजे माझे दोन्ही कुत्रे हे करतात, ते धरतात पण ते चावत नाहीत. सो जसं त्याचे निबल केल्यासारखं करतात. सो त्याचं काय इंटरप्रिटेशन असेल?
But the dog has tried to ward you off by holding your hand and not wanting you to do something extra.
Okay.
It may not bite you given the fact that it is tame, but it is not enjoying what is being done.
म्हणजे he's saying that I'm not biting you, but I don't like it.
That's the dog being nice enough to say, I'm not going to bite you, please don't do this.
पण ते खूप वेळेला असे निबल केल्यासारखं.
They do that.
सो हे झालं बायटिंग, विच इज द मोस्ट काय म्हणूया वरिसम पार्ट. पण समटाईम्स डॉग्स बार्क. तर त्याचं काय म्हणजे, आणि आपल्याला असं एक कर्कश बार्किंग डॉग इरिटेट करू शकतो. सो बार्किंगचं काय आहे?
बार्किंगचे
बॅड बिहेवियर.
हां, बार्किंगचे बरेच प्रकार असतात. ऑल दीज कम अंडर व्हॉट इज व्हॉट कॅन बी सॉर्टेड आउट थ्रू अ प्रॉपर बिहेवियरिस्ट और बाय अंडरस्टँडिंग युअर डॉग. मेनी टाइम्स डॉग्स bark out of being kept alone. Dogs don't enjoy being kept alone. Sometimes you find people leave their dogs alone, and that is the kind of dog which will keep on barking incessantly. Okay, certain dogs are territorial, so they will be fiercely protective of their territories. You try to approach their territory, then they start barking. So again, these are the problems that you look out for, even not only when you are selecting a dog, but even when you intend to breed a dog. An underconfident dog by default will usually have puppies that are underconfident. If it is not very comfortable, we used to do a lot of feeding of dogs. Used to feed about 100 odd dogs before the lockdown happened, and we've always noticed this, that mother dogs who are very friendly, invariably their puppies tend to be very friendly. But the mother dogs are very fractious or apprehensive around people, then the puppies are equally fractious. It sort of rubs off onto the puppies. They're not confident around people. So that's why selecting dogs also, not that we are promoting breeding, but I'm just saying selecting these particular traits or for the absence of these traits is equally important when you're wanting to breed a dog.
माझ्याकडे जो कुत्रा आहे नेपोलियन, त्याला जेव्हा मी अडॉप्ट केला तेव्हा तो प्रचंड चावायचा. तुम्हाला आठवतं त्याला टू मेक फ्रँटिक कॉल्स आणि रक्तबंबाळ झालोय आम्ही. पण ओव्हर द इयर्स त्याचं बायटिंग कमी झालं असं म्हणूया आपण. डिटिरिओरेट वुड बी द रॉंग वर्ड, पण इट कॅन हॅव लेसन. आणि आता तो कधीतरी फार अग्रेसिव्ह झाला तरच चावतो. सो हे टेपरिंगचं काय कारण असू शकतं?
Probably he has realized one where he sits inside the hierarchy in your house. Okay. So now he's no longer going to bite you because he probably thinks of you as being above him in hierarchy. He's not trying to assert his dominance over you, so he's not trying to bite you. Okay. The other reason is, over a period of time, dogs do respond to proper handling and care. Okay.
I always feel it is my love that has kind of made him docile with
it me. Happens with
मला गॅरंटी नाही बाहेरच्यांबरोबर तो तसा वागेल. I'm seriously saying.
No, that can happen with some dogs sometimes, when they feel, when you are handling them in a particular fashion. So we always say that you should be firm but gentle. When you're firm and gentle with most animals, that they will not be, nervous around you.
मग मी तोंडातला एखादी गोष्ट आधी मी काढायला देतो, तो he used to be angry. Now he just drops it and says, do what you want to do.
So he's probably now realized that, where he stands. Yeah. But that would not necessarily mean that he would be equally, but I think this is something that has come with a lot of effort.
Yeah.
This would not have been without effort. Like if you had backed
like
off.
2.5 years.
So yeah, it happens with some people that, if you back off at the first bite and the dog realizes that it can make you back off. No, that doesn't mean that if a dog is snarling at you, you start approaching these dogs.
Barabar.
I'm going to make you more docile. I'm going to teach you.
It's a smart decision.
It takes a lot of things. It's how you handle the dog. It's how the dog perceives you. The dog's inherent nature, whether it wants to think of you as, above it or below it in hierarchy. A simple act like not allowing the dog to share the couch with you can many times make the dog understand that it is below you in hierarchy. A simple act is not feeding the dog before you've had food. Can also make a huge difference, because see, what happens is, in a pack, it's always the dominant dogs that get a chance to eat first. Right?
So, आपल्याच पेशंट आहे, तुमचाच पेशंट आहे हॅपी, माझ्या मैत्रिणीचा कुत्रा. ही हॅज नाव व्हॉट्स अबाउट 8-9 months old, पण तो थोडासा आता अग्रेसिव्ह व्हायला लागलाय. तो स्नॅप करतो, तो थोडासा बार्क करतो जास्त. सो यू आर सेइंग दॅट ही थिंग्स ही इज ऑन इन अ हायर, ही नीड्स टू बी.
You need to basically address this. These are behavioral problems that need to be addressed through proper training. Many a times a dog may do that out of boredom. Out of boredom. When there is less mental stimulus. Okay, a dog may then sometimes become frustrated. And out of frustration also sometimes the dog can tend to be aggressive, either destructive towards the property or towards its own self. So that also needs to be sorted. That being said, male dogs will at various times during their growth try to assert their dominance, right? Because as the hormones kick in, they will try to assert and try and find out where they fit into the pack. Female dogs, that is why, are a little easier to handle for first time as compared to male dogs.
So this guy needs, you're saying he needs to understand.
First you need to figure out as to what is triggering an attack.
आणि हे पहिल्या वर्षामध्ये करणं जास्ती गरजेचं आहे. म्हणजे मोठा जसा कुत्रा
ज्या पॉइंटला तुमच्या घरी आला तेव्हापासून तुम्हाला त्याची ट्रेनिंग सुरू करायची.
तुम्ही मला सांगितलं होतं तुम्ही त्याला ट्रेन करा, नाही तर तो तुम्हाला ट्रेन करा.
तो तुम्हाला लगेच ट्रेन करायला लागतो.
ते माझ्या डोक्यात लाईन फिट आहे. सो यू नीड टू टेल हिम.
Because I mean, he will immediately start training you, but you need to train the dog. And we don't talk about, we are not interested in training him to fetch vegetables on market.
Right.
But the dog has to listen basically.
Right.
Nothing barbaric, no hitting the dog. You have to be firm.
Correct.
Dogs realize, like you lay the ground rules with the dog will realize that.
कुत्र्यांमध्ये अजून एक गोष्ट कॉमन आहे, झूमी. तर त्याला चांगलं समजावं, वाईट समजावं.
Zoomies are basically unregulated, neurological activity. The dog has got so much of surge of energy inside, and there is no channelizing of the energy. So then that will manifest itself in the form of zoomies. So zoomies can take on multiple manifestations. My uncle's dog used to have zoomies after he had a bath. So he used to run from one end of the house to the other end of the house, and all over the house. He used to be like super excited, and every time after a bath he used to like run. He used to fly.
And it's a goal catching their own tail.
So there are some dogs, especially the toy breeds, where we find this habit tends to develop, wherein they keep on going round and trying to catch their own tails. Okay. There is another habit that sometimes happens in certain toy breeds like toy poodles and all that. When they keep on grinding their own teeth. Yeah. So that is also a neurological activity. Okay, it happens many times. Anxiety can act as a trigger for these kind of activities. It could be related to something in the mouth that is hurting the dog. So when that happens, you need to take the dog to your vet and have it checked. It's not very common, but it happens.
Also, panting is very common with dogs.
Yes.
तर ते म्हणजे आपल्याकडे खूप गरम पण होतं, तर कळत नाही की आता त्यांना गरम होत आहे म्हणून आहे का ब्रेथलेस होतोय कुत्रा, की हाऊ डू वी इंटरप्रेट इट?
So panting happens normally. It is a form of thermoregulation where the dog wants to cool down its body. Then you will find that the dog will put its tongue out. Usually it will keep its tongue very, very moist, with its saliva, and then that is how it will cool down very effectively. Since dogs and cats don't have sweat glands all over their body, dogs have them on their nose and they also have them in between their toes. Cats have them in between their toes. So these are the only places where they sweat. Unlike human beings, they don't really have sweat glands all over their body. So the only effective way in which a dog can cool down after overheating is by panting. Okay. Now, unless the panting were accompanied by some other signs, if it is thermoregulatory panting, then usually once you keep the dog in a better environment where the temperature is more regulated, okay, panting should settle down in about say 10 to 15 minutes.
Okay.
The panting goes on for a longer time than 10 to 15 minutes after managing environmental conditions. Okay, and if that is also accompanied by other signs like
trembling
or abdominal involvement in breathing, where the dog is gasping. Okay. Or sometimes the color of the tongue going dark,
right?
Okay,
right.
Bluish discoloration. Bluish discoloration is something very subjective. Not everybody might see that, but the tongue goes dark, and you can make out that the tongue is going dark. The eyes are popping out. Then you don't want that stage to come. Okay, so basically, if your dog has not stopped panting after about say 15-20 minutes or about half an hour of you having managed the environmental conditions, you definitely need to talk to your vet. Sometimes distress can cause panting. Panting can also happen sometimes because of pain. Okay. Or an itch.
Acha, can also cause panting.
Can cause panting. Also, male dogs tend to pant excessively when they smell female dogs in heat.
Oh, acha.
They will also whine along with that. They will pant and they will whine. So that's very commonly seen in male dogs, especially if there's a female in heat. Then the dog will be drooling and panting excessively.
I've seen these things happen.
That happens.
One last question. हे कुत्रे जेव्हा रस्त्यावरती धावतात.
Okay.
आणि बऱ्याचदा आता रस्त्यावरच्या कुत्र्यांबद्दल स्ट्रिक्ट लॉज चेंजेस होत आहेत.
राईट.
इट इज ऑल बॉइलिंग डाऊन टू कुत्रा चावला किंवा आमची गाडी जाताना किंवा बाईक जाताना आमच्या मागे धावला. तर हे दोन बिहेवियर्सचं काय डिकोडिंग आहे?
Dogs are predatory by nature. Predators will basically go behind objects that move. So it's a natural part of their instinct to run behind objects like vehicles, like bicycles especially, or even cars. Okay. Many a times we find nowadays a lot of dogs have had a bad or a poor interaction with somebody on a bike. Obviously the dog cannot reason every time that this was one particular person which has done it. So after that every bike is going to invite a chase.
But is it की जनरली एका बाईकच्या मागे किंवा कोणीतरी मारलंय, ढकललंय, दगड मारलाय म्हणून ते निर्माण होतं?
It may start with that sometimes, but it can sometimes happen independently of that also.
Okay.
Yeah? It could be the make of the bike, sometimes it could be the particular
noisy
sound that the bike makes at times. Electric bikes nowadays, you find dogs don't really go behind electric bikes.
So that entire...
No, because it doesn't make that kind of sound as compared to a regular, an IC engine wala bike. The electric bikes don't make that kind of sound. So you don't find dogs chasing after electric bikes.
आणि काही कुत्रे अंगावर उडी मारतात. तर त्याचं लॉजिक काय आहे?
अंगावर उडी मारतात जेव्हा ते कुत्रे लहान असतात ना, तेव्हा many a times they will start exhibiting these signs of excitement, wherein when the owner comes in, they want to greet that owner by jumping onto his body. Many a times this excitement gets carried over towards other people in the family also, and sometimes towards visitors as well. And it's an extremely friendly dog. It's the dog's way of greeting you. Again, coming back from the wolf ancestry and the puppy thing, when the pup gets excited, okay. So it gets excited, it wants to greet you by jumping on you. But that being said, that's not really something that is welcomed by everybody. It can be distressing for people at times to have a dog.
And especially motha like a Saint Bernard or a Doberman, I'm overwhelmed ka tu ithe alela asto.
Yes. So that can have that. So this is something that the owner needs to address from the very beginning. So these are all behavioral traits that the owner has to address from the very beginning. They have to recognize it as a behavioral trait, and that has to be addressed. See, one thing I would like to stress here, many a times when we ask pet owners to be firm with their pets, that's not something that many people accept willingly. Many a times people get offended when you ask them to train their dogs. People get offended. An untrained dog is not, or if a dog is difficult to handle, that's not a reflection who you are, so you don't have to take it personally. But it's always a pleasure to work with a trained dog. So people have to understand that. People tend not to, accept these behavioral traits when they come up till it becomes a problem.
And
once it becomes a problem, then they come up with all kinds of knee-jerk solutions they want for that. Yeah. For example, humping is another problem. Yes. Male dogs and sometimes certain female dogs also do tend to hump.
And if loka ghari aale asthana vagare, it can be an embarrassing.
It can become embarrassing. It is quite. It is also not very comfortable to people in the house, the guests as well as the owners of the dog. And the dog is also experiencing extreme anxiety at that point of time. So for all parties involved, including the pet, it's not something very nice that's going around.
But is humping only sexual? It is also excitement?
Many a times it could be as a result of sexual frustration, but sometimes it can also be because the dog is trying to dominate you. So you will find that in a particular family also, there are certain members of the family who get humped more as compared to everybody in the family. Yeah. Secondly, what happens is female dogs also hump. They hump less as compared to male dogs, and even neutered dogs will hump. But again, they will hump less. So definitely Neutering can take care of a lot of behavioral issues with dogs, especially those related to aggression that stems from the sex hormones. Apart from that, also there are other types of aggressions that you need to look into. One is a predatory aggression. When the dog perceives a particular animal, a dog or
my
another
dog
species,
sees a rat or a cat,
and tries to kill it. Now that is predatory aggression. It may not go down with training.
Yeah, it doesn't go. पण कुत्रे आणि मांजरी काही राहतात एकत्र.
काही राहतात, काही राहतात, काही नाही राहत. त्याच्यातही काही breeds आहेत which will get along with other breeds or other animals more easily. Some of them might not. Like hounds, for example, they will have a high predatory instinct. They may not get along with cats.
Yeah, right.
You know, likewise, for example, there is something known as resource guarding. Dog becomes extremely possessive of certain things that it perceives as high priced possessions. It
Even with people, म्हणजे I've seen my dog does not let anybody enter the room.
Yes.
तुम्ही पण मला म्हणत होतात की तुमचा एक कुत्रा आहे जो
he can become difficult at that time. So these are the problems that need to be sorted out when they stem up at the very beginning. Resource guarding is very commonly seen when the dog will not allow you to touch its food bowl also. You know, there are various ways of tackling that. We will talk about these when we talk about the different behavioral training aspects of dogs. But resource guarding is one of the most difficult problems to get rid of. Most of the times, behavioral problems that stem in dogs arise from the fact that the dogs don't have a proper channel for their energy. You know?
So walk, चालायला नेणे, games देणे, बॉलशी खेळणे हे.
So there is a concept of wellness.
Right.
Okay. And in human beings, what does it mean when you say that I'm seeking wellness care? So what does that mean? That you are trying to basically, you know, acquire things or enrich yourself in a holistic fashion. You know, physically, mentally, emotionally, financially. So in every which way, your journey is towards attaining that kind of a fulfilling holistic thing, right? In dogs also and cats as well, it is possible to have these kind of wellness concepts. And there are 5 to 6 things that are basically the cornerstones of these wellness things. Amongst that, mental enrichment is also extremely important. Feeding the dog the right food, extremely important. You know, giving the dog enough time to play, very important. Taking the dog to the vet for visits, vaccinating it on time, you know, deworming the dog on time. These are all aspects of wellness. The most important thing here when it comes to improper behavior, let us say, you know, it's not good or bad. It's something that is considered to be improper in the human society, which we would not want our pets to have. That can be sorted if you are giving sufficient mental stimulus to your dog.
Understood.
One more thing I want to point out over here is, you have to be very clear when you get a pet into your family as to what was the reason that made you get a pet into your family. Were you getting a pet to tick a box? That's not how you get a pet. You know, you need to get in a pet. You have to realize it's like welcoming a new member in your family, a member who's going to be completely dependent upon you for the next 12 to 15 years, give you a lot of love and joy in return, but you will have to look after its basic well-being, right? So when you do that, when you have carved out that kind of space in your schedule for all these things, is when you decide to go in for a pet. And the nature of the pet will also be determined by that. So as a veterinarian who gets a lot of people coming to me, we find it so funny sometimes that, you know, people have a dog, but they have no idea as to how the dog behaves outside because they've never had the time to take the dog for a walk. It's very important that you walk your dog at least once a day. In today's time, people are very busy. So they will have a dog walker who will take the dog for a walk.
Probably on phone.
Most dog walkers are very regimental. For them, it is about completing that particular walking time frame. Okay, the dog, when it goes for a walk, needs to go around exploring its surroundings. It needs to sniff. Needs to mark its territory. All those things have to happen. It can't happen with a regimental walk. Also, it gives you a time to bond with your dog and also observe for things like the urine, the color of the urine, the feces, the color of the feces, which are very important health markers. A lot of how the dog's health is can be very easily gauged upon these smaller things. Likewise, you can have a grooming center and you should groom your dog professionally, but at least once a month, find a time to bathe your dog. You can come to know a lot of things about the dog, and the dog tends to basically bond with you so much better when you do that.
तुम्ही आता बोलताना वेलनेस, वॅक्सिन्स, ग्रूमिंग, डॉग वॉकिंग, स्निफिंग अशा असंख्य गोष्टींबद्दल बोललात आणि हे सगळे विषय वेगवेगळ्या एपिसोडमध्ये आपल्याला कव्हर करायचे आहेत. पण आजचा एपिसोड आपण इथेच थांबूया. पुढच्या एपिसोडमध्ये आपण वॅक्सिन आणि जे प्राण्यांना घेऊन जसं इलनेसेस होऊ शकतात जे इझिली प्रिव्हेंटेबल आहेत त्याच्यावरती चर्चा करू.
निश्चित.
सी यू इन द नेक्स्ट एपिसोड.
थँक्यू.
थँक्यू.